Hello everybody and thank you for downloading. Before we start with our weekly episode of Football a la Turca, we at the podcast would like to send our sincerest condolences to the family and loved ones of the two Ankaragücü supporters who died in Friday's bus crash. Young Eren Acigoz and Mert Turgut Cakir, aged only 15 and 17, tragically passed away while their bus crashed on their way to the Antalyaspor versus Ankaragücü match. May they rest in peace. Hello everyone and welcome back to Football a la Turca. This is our third episode and thank you for downloading. I'm Kaan Bayazit, joined once again by Burak Sezgin and Özer Dindjer. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey Kaan, thanks. It's good to be back.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be back with you again.
And pleasure to hear from both of you, of course. And guys, did you get any more feedback this week?
Yeah, some good feedback. I think this time we're going to be back for a third installment. We're going to be leaner and trimmer than before.
Yeah, I think that was the common message we did receive, that tried to keep it a little bit shorter. Obviously, our first two episodes were a little bit longer than we would have hoped. Last week, the derby, lots of things to talk about. And the week before that, our first episode, so we had to get it out, introductions and such. But we will definitely aim for a little bit of a leaner episode, like the guys just said. So let's get into that. Let's make work of that, and let's get straight into the news before we start with the Cup and Super League results. The big news coming out in Turkish football this week: Senol Günes has officially agreed a 4-year deal with the Turkish Football Federation to take over the Turkish national team on June 1st. He is currently, of course, employed by Beşiktaş, and his contract is set to expire on May 31st. Let's throw to you first, Özer. What do you think? Good appointment for the Turkish national team? Yes or no?
Yes, in a single word, yes. I think I'm pleased that we finally managed to get rid of Lucescu, who was a coach that I respected and admired a lot, but his heart just really wasn't in the job. So his departure is good. Senol Günes, of course, guided us to our proudest moment in 2002. So it's going to be kind of a nostalgic return, or at least a nostalgic, wishful return to those kind of days. But we'll see. We have a good squad. Not necessarily the golden generation that he inherited back then, but still, generally, I'm happy with the appointment.
What about you, Burak? What's your thoughts on the appointment?
I'm happy to see Senol back at the helm. It's good to see a Turkish coach. I just hope he brings in a lot of the young players that are coming through in Hungary, the likes of Ozan Kabak, Merih Demiral, keeping Cengiz Ünder, maybe even giving Enes Ünal some more opportunities as well. So, and I think Emre Akbaba can be a great midfield general for the national team. So, happy to have a Turkish coach back. Just hope he doesn't pick old stalwart players and uses this as an opportunity to clear out the older generation and bring in the new exciting players that we're seeing coming up through the ranks.
Yeah. Well said, Burak.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the mission that Mircea Lucescu was kind of tasked with. He gradually did that, I think, transitioned the old guard into the new a little bit, and perhaps a little bit of a thankless job for him. But I do know from a colleague in Romania that he was very proud in what he did in the sense that bringing in the new generation. And I think perhaps my first inclination would be, look, I mean, as you guys know, for me, the story with Güneş and Beşiktaş has been finished for quite a while. He's overstaying his welcome, so to speak. So in that sense, I would have probably preferred for him to take over when Lucescu did, or at least, during the summer or so. But realistically, perhaps it's not a bad thing to have a buffer in between, somebody who takes care of the transitional period from one generation to the other, because it's a very difficult job, very thankless job, like I said, and now Senol can start off with a clean sheet, so to speak. overall, I do think it's a good appointment. I do prefer, for when it comes to a national team, to have a more experienced, a little bit older coach. I think at club level, you probably, especially for a big club, you probably want a little bit more of a younger coach, more modern approach. But I think Senol Günes is a very good candidate for the Turkish national team. But I think I said it previously that someone like Aykut Kocaman, I think, definitely could have gotten his chance too. But Senol Günes is kind of the safe bet after, of course, Fatih Terim's last stint. But let's move on. There were also Turkish Cup results during the midweek, and these were the quarterfinals in the Turkish Cup. The second legs were being played this week. Hatayspor beat Galatasaray 4-2. It ended 4-4 on aggregate, and Galatasaray go through on away goals. Göztepe beat Malatyaspor 1-0 in Izmir, but that wasn't enough, as Malatyaspor had won the first leg 1-0, and the penalty shootout resulted in favor of Malatyaspor 4-5. Kasımpaşa were beaten at home against Akhisar, and that was a kind of a runaway win on aggregate 2-5 to Akhisar. So the Turkish Cup winners of last season move on to the semi-finals as well. And then finally, Ümraniyespor beat Trabzonspor 3-1. The first leg had ended 0-0, so Ümraniyespor are through to the semi-finals as well, and they are the only first league team in the semi-finals, so that's the second tier of Turkish football. Those semi-finals were already drawn, but the dates and times are not known yet on when these matches will be played. Ümraniyespor takes on cup holders Akhisar, and Galatasaray take on Malatyaspor. Any remarks here, guys, or shall we move on to the Super League fixtures?
I would love Ümraniye to win it, is all I'm saying.
I just want to say as well that if Galatasaray were to win it, it would mean that the fifth place team would go to Europe. So that's something to be aware of in the coming weeks as well.
For me, that's... I mean, it would be nice, of course, to see Akhisar win back-to-back cups in a way, but honestly, they're so knee-deep in, or neck-deep even, in the relegation battle right now, that it's probably difficult for to justify that. I mean, imagine they go down and next season they play in the Europa League as a second division team. Would be kind of interesting and funny, but
I think that did actually happen on the Kayseri Erciyaspor.
But yeah, I mean, it's happened before. Of course, I remember West Brom being in the Europa League while they were playing in the Championship, and it happens from time to time that a second division team reaches the Europa League. But for our coefficients, it's probably not the most ideal, because Akhisar are going to be focused on winning promotion if they were to relegate, and how keen will they be in fielding their best 11 in the Europa League then. So I think
it was sorry to cut you off. I just had a quick check there. It was Beşiktaş, but it was 2007.
Oh, okay. That's a long time ago in a galaxy far away.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Super League results. On Friday, the first match that was played, it was only one match on Friday, and that was quite a surprising result, I should say. Antalyaspor were beaten at home 2-4 against Ankaragücü. Ankaragücü now with back-to-back wins. This match was, of course, played at 8:30 local time. The goals scored in this match, the first one was scored by Grando in the 19th minute, 1-0 to Antalyaspor, but Dever Ergil scored a first half hat-trick. He made it 1-1, 1-2 and 2-3 in the 22nd, 26th and 41st minute respectively. He is the first player to score a first half hat-trick since Bafetimbi Gomis did last season for Galatasaray. In the meantime, Nazim Sangare scored another beauty. He had equalized in the 30th minute for Antalyaspor, and Tyler Boyd put the cherry on the cake for Ankaragücü in 90th plus 5 minute with his second goal in 2 matches. 2-4 was the final result here. I'm going to throw to you, Burak, first. What did you think of this match?
Oh, so great game of football. Like you said, great game by Nazım Sangare. You should definitely check that out. And if the combination of Ergil and Boyd can keep this up, then I think Ankaragücü will have no issue staying up. They've just got to keep those two players fit. And Well, now Antalya, the Verneko, had one win in their last six, so that's a little bit worrying run of form for them. And of course, next week you have Ankaragücü at home to Bursaspor, which is going to be really interesting in the relegation zone. But I was talking to a friend of mine about Orgil, and he said somewhere online that being in Turkey reminds him of being in Jamaica with regards to how hospitable the people are. So that's great news to hear, and long may he continue.
Özer, your opinion on the match?
Well, Nazim Sangare again with an almost carbon copy of the extraordinary strike from last week. Very impressive. And again, as Burak said, Orgil and Tyler Boyd are just really running the show for Ankaragücü right now. I think Orgil is candidate to be MVP of the week
on
the
sure.
Super League.
4 goals in 2 matches for him, and all 4 of them were extremely important and got them 6 points really with his goals. So definitely shout out to Orgil, who is in amazing form. Definitely did not expect that if you look at his career trajectory so far, but he's been impressive since joining Ankaragücü. Let's move on to Saturday, the first match, another important one when it came to the relegation battle, because of course, as I already mentioned, this was an important win for Ankaragücü, and so did their friends. Bursaspor get a very important win against Demirgroup Sivasspor in the early match. Well, actually, this was played simultaneously as the Kayseri Beşiktaş match, so there wasn't an early match on Saturday. Bursaspor won 3-2 against Demirgroup Sivasspor. Goals coming from Emre Kilinç, putting the visitors in front in the 6th minute, but Abdullah Shehu made it 1-1 in the 20th minute. Henry Salve scored the 2-1 in the 62nd minute, right before a penalty was missed by Sako, or should I say Tolgahan saved it. Then Ndinga made it 2-2 in the 89th minute, but Aytaç Kara scored a very clinical 96 minute of stoppage time winner for Bursaspor that put the home side in cloud 9 really, and he gives them the 3 points with that amazing strike from the edge of the box. Bursaspor with that move out of the relegation zone now, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but a very important win for Bursaspor. Özer.
Yes, their first win after 9 games. And what a way to win it as well in the 96th minute. My touch sent Samet Aybaba close to tears, but it was really great to see Bursa finally win again.
The Sivasspor's first goal was, I just think it was a crazy goalkeeping error from the Bursaspor keeper. He needs to be, he needed to be stronger and braver and come out and get the ball. But by the same margin, the Bursaspor's winning goal, the ball just happened to get played through 2 Sivas players, and I really think the goalkeeper should have done a lot better with that. And going back to the penalty that Bursaspor were awarded, I think safe to say there were no controversies surrounding that. It was just another great save.
Yeah. I mean, Tolgahan's a goalkeeper that's impressed me, if I'm honest, and you do make a good point that he didn't look too shabby today. With on the third goal, I wasn't too sure, but it just seemed to dwindle in a little bit. And Aytaç, great strike, of course, but it kind of just felt like he was, just shooting and praying, so to speak, shooting and inshallah, which I can understand given Bursaspor's position. But yeah, I was surprised mainly by the lack of nervosity, perhaps, from Bursaspor. I mean, I didn't have the feeling that they were super on edge, like 2 years ago when they almost relegated and the entire stadium was biting their nails and fans were crying in the stands and everything like that. Of course, it's still early now, but still, they were in a very precarious position, and they get themselves out of it for the time being, at least, with a very important and emphatic winner by Aytaç Kara. Moving on to the second match that was also played at 4 o'clock was Kayserispor against Beşiktaş. This match ended 2-2. Atiba Hutchinson put Beşiktaş ahead in the 38th minute, but Artem Kravets, he scores once again for Kayserispor in the 58th minute, and then Deniz Turuc in the 62nd minute put Kayserispor ahead, but Caner Erkin got a lucky goal in the 90th minute, kind of a cross or shot, I'm not sure what that was, to salvage a point for Beşiktaş, but once again Beşiktaş in the lead at halftime and giving it away in the end. And it's not the first time this season. That's happened quite a lot this season, where they take the lead and give it away. Both teams are still unbeaten in 2019. That's worth mentioning. And these are back-to-back draws for Beşiktaş, of course, following their 3-3 draw with Fenerbahçe last week. Burak, I'm going to throw to you first.
I think Beşiktaş are still recovering. By the looks of things, they haven't managed to shake off the shock of that 3-3. I thought that it just happens. I think after like a big derby like that, sometimes you need to get back into mental sharpness, and maybe that was lacking. I thought at 2-1, Karius very nearly let in a third goal. He with a fumble attempt, and he's not fumbled anything, I don't think, in the last however many games. I've not seen any headlines about Karius making any errors, so quite lucky not to let one in. And the Caner goal at the end is one of those typical free kicks that comes through a crowd of people. And was it a cross? Was it a shot? No, Beşiktaş players attacked it. It just happened to creep in, but probably deserved because of the amount of pressure you put on attacking wise. So one thing actually, the disallowed Kayserispor third goal, was that? Do we know if that was going for an offside or a foul? Because I know a Beşiktaş player stumbled over a Kayseri player who was on the floor in a box. I'm not sure if the ref saw that as a foul, or I personally think it was an offside call, from what I remember. But Kayserispor unlucky not to get the win, but like I say, a draw I thought was a deserved result.
On that VAR call, it was actually given for an offside. The linesman had raised his flag. But I think had that goal been allowed, which it looked very, very narrow to me on the VAR replay. I mean, had that goal been allowed, it would have been 3-1 to Kayseri, and it would have been a very different finish to the match.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a flattering point. I mean, it's a lucky goal right at the end. And it's kind of like I predicted last week. This is going to cause Beşiktaş that's a mental blow that's going to be very difficult to overcome. In years prior, Beşiktaş had shown tremendous mental agility, so to speak, where they could bounce back from big setbacks. But at this point, the tank is in the red already, and I think it's just so difficult then. And Kayserispor have been performing really well in the second half of the season. I was surprised really to that Beşiktaş even took the lead, but not surprised by the fact that this match did not end in their favor. In fact, I was thinking this is going to end at halftime. I thought it was going to end in a Kayserispor win, so a point more than I had expected. Really not much to say. I mean, for me, I've said it last week too, the Senol Günes story at Beşiktaş is over. Should have been over a couple of months ago, and they're just wasting time right now. There's no point in carrying on with him. Just put the new coach in place, give the reins to Guti. Let's see how he does. Let's get him, working out his philosophies with the team. Right now, you're just... you're working with a coach that's already confirmed to be leaving at the end of the season. There's absolutely no benefit at keeping him. Plenty of respect has been shown already by keeping him around for as long as Beşiktaş has. I mean, if this would have been Galatasaray, he would have been out the door last season when things went as bad as they did in the league, despite the good Champions League run. I think this is a very dumb decision to keep Senol Günes around as long as they have. They've already wasted 2 seasons. No need to waste these 3 months. You could better give a coach now these 3 months and then the training camp in the summer rather than put him in front of the group in the summer and just give him that training camp and hope everything goes well come next season. But rant over on Beşiktaş. Moving on to the late match on Saturday, that was Fenerbahçe against Çaykur Rizespor. The informed team Çaykur Rizespor suffered their first defeat of 2019. Fenerbahçe winning this one 3-2. Goals here came twice from Dario Melniak, who had scored the 1-0 for Rizespor in the 6th minute, and then he had also scored the equalizer in the 55th minute. In between, Serdar Aziz had equalized for Fenerbahce in the 22nd minute, and Roberto Soldado had put them ahead in the 40th minute. Victor Moses scored a penalty in the 84th minute to clinch the 3 points for Fenerbahce. This is their 3rd win in 2019, also their 3rd home win, coincidentally. There was also a red card in the 42nd minute for Mykolo Moroziuk. God, these names. In the 42nd minute. And then there was the penalty position that was quite controversial, but quite a lot of penalty shouts in this match. I think I counted 4 or 5, Burak. A golden win for Fenerbahce, of course, and I think Rizespor, this won't really hurt them too much. I mean, they've been in great form. I think they'll continue that way, but for Fenerbahce, definitely very important points.
Yeah, I mean, if Carlsberg did get out of jail cards, I mean, this was definitely a pulsating, nervous game for me to watch. On the penalty calls, I think there was 4. I think the one that was given for the foul on Serdar Aziz was a penalty. That's been confirmed by the EFAB rules, which we can go over later if you want to. The first handball by Mariki, at first I thought yes, but then I saw it a few times. I thought, no, the ball's really close. It's bounced up and hit his hand. You can't really give that. Second penalty call from the Skirtle header. I think that I looked at the distance of the Rizespor defender to Skirtle. I think it was too close to call it accidental. I mean, to call it deliberate. So that's not given. I think the third one should have been given when I can't remember. I think it was Hasan Ali crossed it into the ball, across the ball into the box, and the Rizespor defender, his arm stopped it from reaching Soldado. And I think that was enough for it to be called as a penalty. I've never seen Victor Moses take a penalty in all my years of watching him play in the Premiership, maybe in penalty shootouts. So I was nervous as he stepped up to put that in. But like you say, it was a great win for us. And at the moment, as Fenerbahce fans, we can't look for pretty football and pretty passing. We've just got to look for wins and points. And we go away to Başakşehir next week, which is going to be tough. And then we've got Galatasaray in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So every point counts at the moment. So the goals that Serdar and Soldado scored were both scrappy, but I would take those over like Hasan Ali Kaldır and Füze any day of the week right now. So apart from that, I just want to give a shout out to OXD Muse on Twitter, a Nigerian fan who attended the game, and he was tweeting from before the game, and the Fenerbahce fans chanting for Okocha as well. So thank you for coming along. I think you brought us some good luck for Victor to get that in. I would have liked to have seen Zeitz get a little bit more playing time, but I think he's going to be a good player for us. So happy with the win. Quite lucky as well, playing against 10 men, and we couldn't really create, but beggars can't be choosers at the moment.
What about you, Özer? What do you think of the match?
Well, first of all, Burak, if you could please send a direct message to that fan who showed up at the game and make sure that he attends next week's game against Başakşehir. I will personally pay for his ticket. If this guy's a good luck charm, I can't take any chances.
Now you're making very, very tall promises.
No, I mean, we can come to that later, but I can assure you that a lot of Galatasaray fans will be supporting Fener next weekend. But I suppose part of that is Fener's kind of mini resurgence in the last couple of weeks. First, the comeback against Beşiktaş, and then the narrow but probably on balance deserved win against Rize has given them a little bit of breathing space, and they should probably go into that with a lot more confidence than they would have done before. Although a lot less desperation too, so it could work both ways. Fenerbahce found the equalizer through Valbuena again, through his wonderful pass.
And a corner too. The first equalizer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And again, my without doubt, one of my favorite players in the league. I think Fener had two penalty shouts that Burak mentioned to as well, just before the third one was finally given. But there was a lot of controversy at the time when that penalty was awarded because there were a couple of players in an offside position. But as we found out soon after, that is actually it does deserve a penalty or a foul, even if the player is in offside position, if the offside isn't awarded.
It depends.
So it was.
It's very coincidental that almost the exact same thing happened this weekend with Tottenham, I believe, in the Premier League, and it was explained there. But there's a difference here, though, in my opinion, because the rules specify that if the foul is committed before the player plays the ball or makes an attempt for the ball, right? If I'm not mistaken. And
right.
If you look at when the foul occurs, it's happening
at the same time.
It's, I think, after.
It's hard to say. Yeah,
it's hard. It's very really difficult, but he's already making a move for that ball clearly, and then the foul happens. It's very tough. I think it's definitely for me. This is not a penalty, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, I never want to. I don't think you should ever push for compensation calls, because I think Fenerbahce has gotten quite a few compensation calls in recent weeks already. But I mean, yeah, if you tally 4 or 5 penalty shouts, of which 2 could definitely be an argument made for, at the end of the day, can you call it undeserved? I don't think so. But for me, this was not a penalty, even with the clarification of those rules, because there's a clear play for the ball by that player before the fall, in my opinion. That's I don't know what your opinions on it, Burak, but yeah, love to hear it.
I have the exact wording from EFAB here, which I would like to read to you, gentlemen, and our listeners, which says, a player in an offside position is moving towards the ball with the intention of playing the ball and is fouled before playing or attempting to play the ball, or challenging an opponent for the ball. The foul is penalised as it has occurred before the offside offence. So the bit we should focus on there is challenging an opponent for the ball. Now, Serdar Aziz went up to challenge the opponent for the ball. What is potentially debatable is he took a very soft hand to the face, which I think is what they're classing as the foul. Now, after he took the hand to the face, the guy did kind of grab his foot as if you're trying to give someone an alley-oop over the fence. And he just literally flipped him over onto his back. So
I think that was the foul, no?
So I'm not sure if that would count, but it should count. So I think the hand to the face is, it's not deliberate. There's not a great deal of force behind that. But I think when he then grabs his foot and flips him over, that's definitely a foul. I don't know what he was.
That's how I interpreted that was the penalty call for that, and I completely agree with you. That's a penalty, but that was clearly after the play for the ball, right? And before and after challenging for the ball. So even according to these rules, this should not be a penalty.
So in that case, the foul was probably given for the push in the face, because that's when he was challenging. I mean, if we're confused about it, if Ruud van Dielman is confused about it, Tumar Metin is confused about it, these guys they've played the game to a professional level.
My interpretation on this rule is, if there's, let's say, we saw the Serdar Aziz was already offside before the free kick was even taken, and we all saw that. But let's say he gets pulled down at that moment, like fraction of a second later, before he has any chance of playing the ball or heading the ball. I think the rule is created for that. Then it's a penalty, offside or not. But here, I mean, he's already clearly going for the ball, dueling for the ball, is challenging for the ball, he's already making a movement towards the ball. I really don't think this rule applies here. And if it does, then I think you're in a very muddy water when it comes to going forward, setting a very dangerous precedent. For me, this rule, this exception, so to speak, that would banish that offside. I really don't think it applies here. I don't know about you, Özer.
I mean, there's so many technicalities involved in this kind of split-second action. It's very hard to have a definitive
That's
view
why
on
we
it.
have
But,
VAR.
well, yeah, but my views on VAR are I don't trust VAR, because the VAR itself isn't the definitive answer because it relies on the subjective
No, but
opinion of the referee.
we have VAR to evaluate split-second decisions to give a referee a second chance at maybe reconsidering his decision. I mean, VAR by no means. There's people who say VAR should have the final decision, and I agree with that if they are very qualified people in there. But usually there's very unexperienced referees in there as well, and then I think it's dangerous to do so. But that's another discussion. But that's what VAR is for,
yeah.
to give a referee the opportunity to take a look at something closer. So.
But I know, I appreciate that, but it's just relying on yet more subjectivity because the referee might not want to go back on his original decision because it makes him look less capable in the split second.
Yeah, it's happened a lot in different leagues,
and that's happened.
But not so much in
not
Turkey yet.
Well, I still think there have been so many questionable decisions that have come out of VAR, even in Turkey, that means that I'm not completely convinced with the technology. But if the technology was definitive and the technology itself was to say yes, no, offside, penalty, not penalty, then that would be slightly different. But relying on a subjective team of referees who, like you say, often...
Yeah, but you're always relying on subjectivity, and I think that you are with... if you don't have VAR, it's a lot easier for a referee to decide a game one way or the other. With VAR, that's in the back of their head too, and they need to be extremely determined to go a certain way if they are deliberately sabotaging a team or whatever, because then they really don't have an excuse anymore because that VAR thing is hanging over them. So I think it does improve refereeing, as I have already said before. Of course, you're still going to have controversial calls, but let's move on to this now. Penalty or not?
Yes.
No, not you. Özer first.
Sorry, the...
Not taking into account any of the previous shouts, this one in particular, with the information Burak gave us about the rule, penalty or not?
Penalty.
Okay. Burak?
I am a man of the law, and the law says penalty. So for me, yes.
No, I don't agree. The law does not say penalty. The law is very specific about saying if the fall happens before challenging for the ball, before making a play for the ball, or before making contact with the ball. I think in all three of those instances, he was doing, except for making contact with the ball, he was making a play for the ball, and he was clearly challenging another player for the ball before the fall happened, in my opinion, so no penalty. Moving on to Sunday results. The early match at 1:30 local time, Konyaspor against Göztepe, ended in 1-1. Peter Filipovic had put Konyaspor 1-0 ahead in the 18th minute, but Yasin Üstekin literally shushed the home fans in the 54th minute by equalizing. Göztepe had quite a few chances after that, but it was Konyaspor who came closest to grabbing the win late in extra time. In the 4th minute of stoppage time, VAR had awarded Konyaspor a penalty kick. Nate Skubic stepped up, but who else than the Portuguese Panther Beto stopped it, and keeps precious points for Göztepe that are in trouble or currently in the relegation zone because rivals of theirs won this weekend, of course, with Ankaragücü winning, Bursaspor winning, Fenerbahce winning. Göztepe dropped down to those final three. So, gonna throw to you first, Özer. What did you think of this match?
I think this game was all about Adis Yahovic playing in Konya against his old club, Göztepe, where they should have reached an agreement to keep him on. He was playing exceptionally well for Göztepe last season. But nonetheless, he made the switch to Konya early in the second half in this game. He had a very bad miss, or let's give Beto credit. Beto made a great save early on in the first half to deny Yahovic a goal. And then, like you said, on the other side of the game, very, very late in the match, he misses a point-blank goal. Which
header,
was,
right?
Yes, that's right. Right over the bar.
After the penalty.
Just an unbelievable miss. Yeah, this was after the penalty, which was already at the 94th minute. 95th, 96th, he misses a penalty. Sorry, he misses a header and skies the ball. So you might think, that he's still secretly working for Göztepe at the back of his mind, but who knows?
Yeah.
But I thought that Yasin Öztekin scored had a very classy finish, scored a great goal.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a second chance where he was released, and I think it was in the second half, and he was clear on goal, but the referee pulled it back for offside.
Yeah. And I don't think he was offside. Yeah.
Well, exactly. I don't believe he was offside.
I think he was the upper player, right?
Right, that's right. Yeah,
and he was onside, I think, and the one in the middle was offside, but not actively taking part in the game.
Yeah, and my understanding was that VAR should intervene until, or rather after the point has been played.
The linesman should wait with flagging.
Right.
I think he jumped the gun there.
That was what I thought, but he jumped the gun there.
Mm-hmm. So, definitely agree.
Can I put that as one of my 5 times where VAR didn't make?
No, because VAR can't do anything about it. That's the linesman failing. That's nothing to do with VAR.
No. Well.
Okay, Burak, throwing to you your opinions on the match.
I thought, Jahovic, what have you done? It's harder to miss from there than to actually score it with the way he put that header over the crossbar. Again, I don't know why Yasin was flagged as offside. I don't know if the referee thought that the player in front of him was interfering with play when he clearly wasn't. So Göztepe can count themselves very unlucky there. And also, when Serkan Kırıntılı just came charging out of his goal at some point early in the first half, I just thought, well, you can tell he's played for Fenerbahçe before, because our goalkeepers in the past, like Rüştü and Volkan, have got a reputation for charging out like madmen and going on adventures, but not as bad as what the
defender at the end, right?
Exactly. I mean, what the hell is going on there? And I think Konyaspor will look at this as 2 drop points, and I think Skubovic really telegraphed his penalty as well. So
yeah,
I think he made it a little bit too easy for the goalkeeper to guess where he was going to put it. So I'd expect a better finish. But yeah, like Ozzy said, it was the game of Jahovic, so a secret agent potentially.
Yeah, and I had dubbed Konyaspor as my favorites to get that fourth spot finish, maybe even third for that. The fourth spot, but maybe even third. Yeah, with Beşiktaş perhaps floundering in the standings. But they've also kind of been disappointing, especially the last 2 matches. I think I expected more from Konyaspor. I think they put in a brave performance against Fenerbahçe. That was 2 weeks ago, I think, right? But then, or wasn't it? I think it was. But then, yeah, now this kind of a disappointing result against Göztepe, who are definitely not in the best form as of late. But all in all, I think Göztepe might have deserved a little bit more here, because that offside call was very crucial, and I don't think it was offside. And those are the types of things that can decide matches, and I think that's where VAR could come in handy if the linesman would just follow the instructions and wait with flagging. But yeah, I mean, we've said enough about this. Let's move on to the next match. Malatyaspor against Başakşehir was played at 4 local time. Malatyaspor losing at home 0-2. Başakşehir with the winner. Emre Belözoğlu scoring the first goal in the 44th minute from a penalty spot, and then Edin Visca doubled the scoreline in the 57th minute. There's 2 goals that were disallowed as well for Başakşehir. One in the first half, I think that was a goal from Arda, if I'm not mistaken, and then one late in the second half after it was already 2-0. Edin Visca scored a second, but that was disallowed for offside. I think both were correct decisions by VAR. And then let's talk about the penalty position. I've seen a lot of people talk about that one, that it wasn't a penalty supposedly. Gonna throw to you first, Burak. What was your thoughts on the match and on the penalty position?
Well, on the match, I thought it did deserve win for Başakşehir. Malatya have got no wins in their last 6 games, so they're really on a downward spiral, and I think Başakşehir took advantage of the wounded dog. As for the penalty, for me it wasn't a penalty. Very, very weak. It was 2 players coming together in the penalty area. I think we said on the previous week's podcast, you've got to have a little bit of a physical aspect to football. Of course, you want to turn it down a little bit in the penalty area because penalties can be given. but I think Arda really made the most of it, probably using his experience and what he learned from Luis Suarez in Barcelona, and he almost ran into the player deliberately and then fell down as if he'd been taken out by one of the 3 Başakşehir fans who attended with a slingshot. But if we could
Shots being fired.
Indeed, but if we could just give a shout out to Edin Visca, 10 goals, 12 assists. Başakşehir have scored 38. He's been involved in 22, and I think strong candidate for player of the season potentially. And I'd love to see him move away from Başakşehir. But I think he's been class for them this season, but never a penalty for Arda Turan. I mean, come on.
Is there an opinion?
On both those points, I totally agree. It was never a penalty. There was a slight contact, equal contact between the thighs of both players, and Arda just fell to the ground like a sack of potatoes. It was a very, very harsh to award that as a penalty. But like I said, he used his experience to fool the ref, and he got away with it. As for Edin Visca, I mean, absolutely, he's going to be MVP of the league if they win the league. Even if they don't, he's just such an extraordinary player. And it's strangely, he must have some sort of supernatural, superhuman presence, because he's made 260 odd appearances for Başakşehir, which is strange because the club was only founded in 2014. But that's something for a different show to analyze. But I think, and stepping aside from this particular game, looking at Başakşehir overall, it really pains me to say that I think they're going to win the league. I think that if they do win the league, they'll be deserving winners of the league. And the biggest contribution for their success will be their away form. Because I think they've got 30 points all season away from home, which is actually more than half of their overall points. And that is a huge gulf away from the second and third, who are Beşiktaş and Antalyaspor, who have got 20 and 19 respectively. And I think having that kind of away form is so impressive, so consistent compared to everybody else, that their second form is only second to Galatasaray anyway. So that kind of consistency is just is what you need to be able to win the league. And
they've only let in 11 goals. Sorry to cut you off, Elizabeth. They've only 11 goals is what they've conceded so far.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I can't remember a champion conceding less than 20 goals since, I think, Beşiktaş in 2003. They conceded 19 goals. So, I mean, yeah, they work out from an incredibly solid defensive foundation, and they have improved that over the years into becoming a decent attacking side as well. And they just, I mean, without impressing, I've said it before, they're not a team that really impresses me, but at the same time, I think they're just so solid, and Beşiktaş and Galatasaray are just not good enough, especially Beşiktaş, but...
they're Turkey's version of Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, but don't call him Diego Simeone, because no, but they are kind of Turkish version of Atletico Madrid, without the fans, without the history, and without all the charm. But Başakşehir here with another solid deserved win, maybe. I mean, Malatyaspor were decent in the first half, I thought. The penalty, I'm not sure. I watched it back, and I really don't know. Somebody told me it's like a body check, and Arda does a body check and he gets a penalty, and that just reminded me of the penalty Kiev got against Beşiktaş 2 seasons ago, where the attacker literally bumps into Beck with his shoulder, like barges into him, goes down himself and gets a penalty, which one of the silliest penalty and red cards that I've seen in my life. But I didn't think it was quite that extreme here, but yeah, maybe a little soft. And like I said, I think 2 weeks ago when Burak said those 2 points that they might have lost against Fenerbahce due to that offside call that wasn't, but the VAR being offline, I don't think that, apart from maybe that situation, Başakşehir will have many situations in which they lost points due to the referees, I think. They always seem to get these 50-50 types of calls their way. But that doesn't take away from what they put down on the mat. And I think at this point in the season, 24 matches in, 10 matches more to go, I don't think there's anyone who could argue that they are undeserved at the top. I don't think Galatasaray or Beşiktaş deserve to be there instead of them. I think, yeah, they're there rightfully so. Let's move on to the late game on Sunday. Erzurumspor against Galatasaray. This one was played at 7 local time. Erzurumspor keeping Galatasaray at a draw, 1-1. The opening goal was scored by Rashid Mohamed in the 18th minute, and Yunus Belhanda pulled things level in the 52nd minute, but a winner could not come. This time, no Chertaki for Kostas Mitroglou in added time, because Erzurumspor hold firm and get a point. And this is not the first time in the second half of the season. They have already taken a point against Beşiktaş and Başakşehir, and also in the first half of the season they had also drawn against Fenerbahçe. Despite that, however, despite being so solid against the top 3 in the league, they are still one to last near the bottom. They are on 22 points now, which is one more than Akhisar, which we'll get to later. But Erzurumspor, for me, good, decent team with a bit of a lack of quality to, get them over the finish line. And they also, news came out today that Mehmet Özdilek got sacked following this result, which is kind of puzzling to me. But going to throw to you first, Özer, of course, because this is Galatasaray's match. Let's hear what you have to say about this game.
Well, gentlemen, I was sitting pretty last week, but unfortunately in the last 5 days I've gone from popcorn to burst bubble, and title dreams are all but over. We didn't play terribly, but we didn't play well enough to say that I think we won the game. The team selection from Fatih Terim was odd, to say the least. It was strange that Semih was starting, and it was stranger still when he brought him off in the second half in place of Nunes, when we really needed some attacking options instead. I was disappointed to see Onyekuru play 90 minutes. I thought he was dreadful. His decision-making is very poor, and this has been a trait of his since the start. And I think unless he can work on that part of his game, he'll never make it as a top player. But I'm seeing a lot of kind of similarities between players we've had in that position on the wings, who have been very fast, very tricky, and had the occasional explosive game, but generally, Bruma being a good example, Gary Rodriguez also, just being poor decision-making, not knowing when to pass the ball, not knowing when to slow down, not knowing when to shoot, etc. And I think another highlight to mention, or I should really call it a low light, is Marcao, because he has a lot of qualities that I admire, and he has a lot of skills that managers look for in a modern defender, as in he's a ball-playing defender. His passing is excellent. He can win tackles one-on-one quite well. But he made 2 massive howlers in the space of a week, which have cost us the Europa League and potentially the title as well. Because he made a critical mistake in Benfica, which led to the goal, which gave us a terrible disadvantage going into the second leg. And he made a critical mistake at the weekend against Erzurum as well, which led to the goal. And I think that those 2 errors could potentially define our season.
Yeah, but I think if you rely on 2 errors to define your season, I think there's something fundamentally wrong with the team in general. I mean, I see the same thing, for example, this week with Beşiktaş, where Mirin got left out of the team, the starting 11, because apparently he's the scapegoat for the 3-3 against Fenerbahçe. Apparently it was all his fault. I think that's a dangerous path to go down to. Marcao, like you said, I mean, good ball-playing defender. You need to remember he's only just been there. And the thing is, you're talking about Marcao now, but just as easily Luyendama could have been in this boat if the referees would have been a little bit harsher on him. I mean, he could have gotten easily a red card against Hatay in the first leg. He could have easily gotten a second yellow in his debut match. I mean, it's just sometimes... Yeah, you need a little bit of luck, especially in those first couple of games. This was, of course, not a great... this was definitely a mistake, sure. But the defensive line was pretty high. And I think if you have a guy like Rashid Mohamed, who you know is extremely quick... I mean, he's done it to Beşiktaş in the Europa League. should be known by now, right? I think you maybe don't play that high of a defensive line, so maybe a little bit of a tactical error.
And I think, like I said, Terry made an interesting starting lineup, which I didn't agree with, but also his tactics weren't exactly well thought out either, I don't think. And I think he didn't really adjust and bring on the right players towards the second half. And this is something I've said both in the last 2 episodes and for the last couple of months on Twitter as well. He's very out of form, I should say, is Fatih Terim, and that's uncharacteristic, really, to see him not throwing the dice and being all attacking when he really needs to be. Belhanda scored before anybody complains about me not praising Belhanda. Belhanda scored the goal, which is great, but in the grand scheme of things, it meant nothing. Because, he scored against Kasımpaşa a couple of weeks ago. We won the game 4-1 anyway. I'm looking for this guy to really win a match
crucial
for us, to do something.
Though.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if it's enough to keep our title hopes alive. Really.
I mean, I think if you scored a 4-1 and a 4-1 win, then you can say, okay, well, that goal doesn't mean anything. But I think if you score the equalizer, it's an important goal because that jump-starts your motor for the win, ultimately. Now, of course, you don't know whether probably Galatasaray would have gone up and over Kasımpaşa regardless because they were very poor. But still, that you need that goal. I mean, and here again, he gives them that lifeline, a very early equalizer in the second half. And I mean, I think if you can't force a win, then it's not really his fault. I mean, he can't carry the team on his back constantly. He can be Wesley Sneijder against Fenerbahce that one match where he scored a brace in 2 minutes.
But I'm just looking for one example in his entire career where he carried us on his back. I mean, there isn't a single case study.
I don't think he's that type of player, really, though. I think you're expecting a Schneider effect from him, which I think he's a 10, but not really like that. I mean, he's maybe more... he works quite hard. Maybe the 10 position isn't exactly what you'd...
I think... I don't... I mean, every single dead ball situation was terrible. And not just Belhanda. I can say the same for Selçuk as well, when he took the corners and everything. There's a serious lack of quality when it comes to dead balls, free kicks, corners.
Which is weird because Selçuk is an absolute specialist. Maybe it's just, I mean, it has to do with the flow you're in, perhaps the weather. I mean, it was really cold in Erzurum. A ball.
Yeah, and the pitch wasn't great. That's also true, and it bounced. Unfortunately for Feguli, who took a good shot in the first half as well. But all these things are excuses. I think the fundamentals are that there's this kind of cloud of poor form hanging over the club.
Yeah.
It took a 94th minute goal to beat Akhisar, who were in the relegation zone. We failed to beat Erzurum, who were in the relegation zone. We lost against Hatay after we were 4-0 up on aggregate and threw it away and made it 4-4 and only went through on away goals.
True. But maybe, I mean, I'm going to put this out there, but I think winning a match in the last minute like you did last week, if you're in first position, I think those are golden points. I think if that's the way you win when you're already 6 points back, I think it's different, It's like, oh, we're scraping by and only just barely hanging on. Whereas if you're in the lead and you get, like, I remember a couple of seasons ago where Umut Bulut got a really late, like a 95th minute win against Gençlerbirliği. And I think that was like the last time Galatasaray won the title before last season. And but then you were in the top position and it's different. I think the whole vibe is different. And like you said, maybe Terim is a little off form, but honestly, he was never really known for his genius tactical ability, right?
No, that's true. That's true.
And I would like to put this out there because this is what I expected when he took over last season. Because for me, Terim always, I think he's a motivator. I think it works really well with Turks when he has a lot of Turks at his disposal. So honestly, last season when he took over from Tudor, I didn't expect him to do so well. And he surprised me positively. But then I'm thinking this motivational tactic that he uses, the way he coaches, I think there's a certain stretch on it, but it doesn't work as long. I think it works better with Turks, with native speakers. But I think with foreigners, that mojo, that magic effect, or whatever you want to call it, I think it's over quicker. So it's very puzzling to me that Galatasaray extended his contract by 5 seasons as well.
Yeah, I mean, Fatih Terim is known as Mr. Motivator, and that's definitely his strongest skill as a manager. I think it might not be entirely fair to say that this kind of motivation only works well with Turkish players, because I think I recall a lot of foreign players responding quite well to that and speaking very highly of his management style.
Yeah, but there's also
like Felipe Melo,
those who noted him specifically in their autobiographies as some of the worst. Yeah, like De Boer, I think. Who else was it? And
Pirlo, Andrea Pirlo as well.
Yeah.
Again, these are different types of players. These are more cultured, more kind of
used to something else.
Yeah, they're more tactically astute types of players who respond better to kind of a slower, tactically
they expect more tactical
enlightened approach. Indeed. Whereas guys like who Terim likes working with are sort of more rough and ready, more raw, more hungry. So it's a different type of player profile rather than Turkish or non-Turkish, I think. But going back to his role in the club and his lack of form, I think I also found it quite strange that he was offered a 5-year extension kind of in the middle of the season on such a long-term deal. I'm not absolutely convinced he'll see out the next 5 years.
How old is he now? 64, 63?
65, I think. 65.
Oh, 65, okay.
Yeah.
It's...
I found that was strange timing above everything else. Although, unfortunately, I don't think that Galatasaray are in a position of stability where we can bring anyone better in. I don't think we have the finances or the clout currently in our form.
Yeah.
To be able to offer someone better to come over and actually improve us. I think we're actually stuck in a place where Terim is our best option.
I think that's one of those things. I mean, what we see, for example, in the Netherlands when Cocu came over to Fenerbahce, they just appointed their head youth coach of young PSV who play in the second division, Mark van Bommel, and I think that's something we really lack in Turkey. And I've said it before on the Black Eagles podcast too, but I'd like to see more of that where there's grooming going on. Like, for example, what Beşiktaş did with Guti, appointing Guti as their assistant. And for me, I think he's the logical successor to Güneş. I think it makes more sense than, for example, Sergen Yalçın. And anyone who knows me a little bit knows that Sergen is my all-time favorite player. I love him to bits. I also really like him as a coach when he's active and not on a break. But yeah, I mean, I think that type of looking ahead. I mean, if I look at the coaching staff at Galatasaray, Hasan Saç, that's really not. I mean, I think he resigned, right? But he was there for a while. And then, did he resign after the Fenerbahce match?
I think no. He was given some sort of fine.
Okay.
Or it was some way the club tried to deal with it internally without making too much of an example. But I agree. I mean, Hasan Saç is not a management material.
Maybe
he's more
Ümit
of a
Davala?
mascot on the touchline. Well, Ümit Davala has all the kind of individual characteristics that you'd expect. He speaks several languages. He's calm. He seems to be kind of reasonably logical. It's just that in the times he's been given the opportunities on the bench when Terim has been out through a ban, he hasn't really taken those opportunities. I don't know if that's because he's
but
felt
you still
under
work
Terim's
with
shadow
certain instructions,
right?
And
Exactly.
Terim that gives you a notepad and he says, "Look, do this, and that." I don't think you can really judge an assistant on that.
I'm really no, that's true. But I'm referring more to in-game management, like substitutions and responding to how the kind of the flow of the game. But like I said, he has a certain ideology which he has to conform to working under Terim. So I would like to see him manage independently at some point another club to see how he does, because I think he has potential.
Yeah. So moving to you, Burak, your opinion on the game. Have Galatasaray shot their chances at the title, you think?
I still think anything is mathematically possible. I think if Fenerbahce beat Başakşehir next week, Galatasaray break the camel's back and beat us in our stadium in a few weeks' time, you could put a little bit more pressure on Başakşehir, and they may start to do a Tottenham and start to drop points and bottle it, for use of a better term, but they are so far in front. I still think it's possible that Galatasaray could catch them. I think we need to give a shout out to Mbaye Diagne. The only thing he's done since come to Galatasaray is change his haircut. So I'm interested to hear Ozzy's thoughts on that. Is he turning into a dud? Is he like the proverbial bottle of ketchup that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer called Alexis Sanchez? He's being shaken up, and once you release it, he's going to explode with goals. And I thought, if we're looking at the goal by Erzurum, scored by Mohammed in the mountains, that's got to be some kind of it was written, it had to happen, and just
Black Mohammed in the mountains.
Exactly, the mountains of Erzurum, and I just thought the pitch was horrendous. But
for some reason I thought you were going to say Isengard.
No, definitely not. But giving some love to Egemen Korkmaz, I loved him at Fenerbahce. I'm sure you have some fondness for him as well, Kaan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have loved him at Jimbom as well.
Beast of a defender. Still. Even at this age, unfortunately very injury prone, but absolutely. I think I would argue the best Turkish defender in the Turkish league of the last decade or so. I can't really think of one that's better. Like Turk in the Turkish league. I'm not talking about guys outside of the league or anything, but
I think that's a fair shout.
Yeah, it would be good. Yeah, listeners, give us your opinions. Give us your top three. Let's go centre backs rather than full backs.
On that note, by the way, he at some point I did feel like he kind of jumped up in the neck of Diagne, and I think that was in the penalty box. No?
That was just a friendly Erzurum greeting. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but I mean, I was looking at it in the replay again, and I was like, penalty maybe? I don't know. What do you think, Özer? Was it a penalty?
It didn't strike me as a penalty at first glance, to be honest. I think only a couple of players even lightly put up their arms to protest that. But I think Diagne is not only firing blanks, but I said this in episode 1. It's not so much that he's not scoring, although that's a fundamental problem. Yeah. It's also his body language, his lack of effort.
And not really getting in positions, right?
He's just sort of just hanging around. It's like I'm not really sure what is going on in his mind when he comes. He just seems to have no interest in playing football.
Yeah, and one of the things that people usually say about strikers, when they're not in a great form, it's like, well, at least he's getting in positions. That's always a good sign that form might pick back up. But honestly, Diagne, I mean, he got a couple of positions in his Akhisar match. I think he had was it the Akhisar game where he got a position early on. But really, overall, he's not really getting in too many positions. He's not really missing chances either. I think that's worse, maybe even, because, like you said, body language. Maybe there's just this feeling around him, like, oh, I got my big contract.
Yeah, exactly. I think Akhisar game he was injured, but the previous game he got into a couple of half chances, but wasn't able to finish anything off. I think we could be in for a long couple of weeks if his form doesn't pick up, because he himself is going to be under a lot of pressure from the fans. Yeah. Already people are sort of shouting at him, saying, well, what have we spent all this money on? Go home, Diagne, blah blah blah, all this kind of thing. The classic response from Turkish fans, but
that's the sort of negativity I think is that's one of those things when I was talking about Beşiktaş fans being way too patient with Senol Günes. I think there should have been Senol istifa chance months ago, but at the same time, I think with Diagne here, it doesn't help. Spamming his Instagram account with "go home, go home, go home" or whatever, and cussing him out. I think that's very detrimental to his performance. Depends, of course, on the player, but I think you can see on the pitch that he's one of those players that lashes out, and I'm sure he reads his social media account. I mean, he's not Wesley Sneijder, who obviously has a team on that. I think this is somebody who probably runs his own social media account, and I think if reading that kind of stuff on a player that's already kind of, I don't know, that's the type of stuff.
I don't ask for much. I just want him to smile, smile, look happy, and the rest of it will come. Just get slightly involved in the game.
Yeah. It's weird that it doesn't. I mean, Mitroglou here. I mean, very important in the equalizer. Good pass
absolutely.
From him.
And he got a lot of criticism from the media and some fans after the match as well, saying, "Oh, he couldn't repeat his form and blah blah blah." But he actually was quite involved in the football.
But,
gave the assist.
What are they talking about then? Repeating his form, because I didn't think he was particularly good last week. He got a great goal, of course, but I mean,
yeah, well, that's something else, I suppose. But scoring a goal, I guess, is what we expected him to repeat his form and score a goal. He was on the high, but let's not take any credit away from Erzurumspor's performance, because they really didn't play like a team who were struggling to stay in the league.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, we had an argument with our friend Umut earlier about Erzurumspor, and I was puzzled by the sacking of Özleg, because for me, I've said it before on the podcast that Erzurum do not play like a team that are clear candidates to relegate. I think throughout the season they've played decent football. They've, I think, only lost twice with more than a 2-goal margin, which is quite word of note, I think, for a team with that few points. And they just seem to lack some quality. I think if you look at their squad and you compare it to the rest of the league, it's just not the best squad. I think it's, if you look at it objectively and you rank them 1 to 18, I think they'd be 18. So it's not really that strange that they are where they are, especially given the fact that Bursaspor have been kind of a dud, Kasımpaşa have been kind of a dud lately, but still, I mean, there's not really a team that sticks out like a sore thumb that's going to go down for relegation, I think, this season. But I just want to get your final opinion on something. Is there the title chances over, or do you still see a chance for Galatasaray to win the league?
I think there is a chance, a very slim chance though. I was very hopeful at the end of last week after we got the last-minute goal against Akhisar. I was on cloud 9. Now I think, especially looking ahead against our fixture list, I think it's a real uphill struggle. We haven't won in Kadıköy since 1999. We really need Fener to do us a huge favour. Do they have any incentive to do that now they're out of the relegation zone? I'm not sure. I think there's so many obstacles in front of us that make it very difficult for us to seriously think about winning the league. But as Burak said, and as Terim said rather, it's the football. That's the football. Everything is something.
Okay, I do agree with what you guys say. For me, it's. I think I wrote it on Twitter as well in response to your question, Uzi, whether Galatasaray lost the title or not. I think it's kind of 70-30, 80-20 right now. It's still possible, but not very probable.
Yeah, exactly. That's my position too. It's possible, of course. It's still mathematically possible, but I don't think it's very probable.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Monday results. There were 2 matches on Monday. Kasımpaşa against Trabzonspor and Akhisar against Alanyaspor were played simultaneously at 8 local time. Kasımpaşa gets a point, their first point in 2019. After a 2-2 draw against Trabzonspor, they came back from 2-0 down. Anthony Nwakaeme scored the 1-0 and the 2-0 in favor of Trabzonspor in the 30th and 45th minute, but Stipe Perico scored the 1-2 in the 63rd minute, and who else but Mahmut Trezeguet, I was almost saying David there, by the way. Mahmut Trezeguet scored the equalizer in the 90th minute through a penalty following a VAR decision due to a handball that was seen on a corner kick. Let's get into this result first. Burak, penalty or no penalty for you?
I think that was a penalty, and that was the same penalty that Fenerbahce should have been given against Rize on Saturday when the ball struck the Rize player's hand. So for me, yes.
Ozzy, you, penalty or not?
Yes, agreed. Similar situation.
I was not 100% sure on it. Because I wasn't sure about the intent. It reminded me a little bit of the Marcao penalty against Benfica. Obviously his hand is nowhere near his body, but I don't know, the ball shoots through a little bit. I think the opponent, the Kasımpaşa player, was slightly in front of him. I don't know if it was 100% intentional, but definitely not a controversial call by any means. But Kasımpaşa's first point and coming back from 2-0 down, both of Nwakaeme's goals were very good, but also at the same time lackluster defending, I think. Very individual goals, definitely something that's going to go on his highlight reel. But Trabzonspor, sloppy again. I watched the majority of the second half, really leaning back, especially after Kasımpaşa got one back, and just that last 15 or so minutes, Trabzonspor, I think, didn't leave their own half, were locked in by Kasımpaşa, a very weakened Kasımpaşa, not the same as we saw in the first half of the season. The substitution at halftime of, which I noted here, of Karim Hafez, who gave the assist to the first goal, that definitely had an impact on the scoring procedures here, and a perhaps important point for Kasımpaşa, and maybe good news for Beşiktaş that Trabzonspor did not win. That was their closest rival for third place, and the difference there between them remains 4 points now. Anything to add, gentlemen?
I just want to say Kasımpaşa did not play like a team who had lost 6 games on the bounce.
Yeah.
And I thought the first Nokame goal, did he foul the Kasımpaşa player as he went through? There was a decision on that. That was... I didn't think it was. I think he just outmuscled him. Mm-hmm. And Trabzonspor's form, last 6 games, 1-2, drawn 2, lost
Terrible.
2. It's like they're just up and down like a yo-yo. But was there? Did something happen to Mustafa Denizli? Was he taken ill or something during the game? I read, or is that just me? Just reading something. So I swear I saw something on Twitter about him.
I was very busy with my notes, unfortunately, so I really didn't pick anything up like that. Did you see anything, Ozzy, about Mustafa Denizli?
No, I didn't actually, because straight after I started preparing for the show as well, so I missed something if it's happened.
Yeah, I'm just looking on Twitter now, and it said that he's been taken to the hospital during the game.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he didn't come back for the second half. That's right.
Maybe that's why they. Maybe that's why they were so much better in the second half.
Oh dear.
Yeah, maybe not the best remark, but yeah, get well soon, Mustafa Denizli.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then the other result, quite maybe surprising, Akhisar winning that one 3-1 against Alanyaspor. Alanyaspor, who had been in decent form of late, but it was Milan Lukac who opened the scoring in the 65th minute. An own goal. I don't know if you guys saw this, but this was both hilarious and tragic at the same time. And you know what you expect when a team that are that low in the table with only 18 points, I believe, and so close to relegating, and you go down in that fashion in the 65th minute, you just expect them to completely implode. But nothing was farther from the truth, because Zeki Yavru with a stunner in the which minute was it? 74th minute, pulled things level, and then Bilal Kissa only 3 minutes later puts Akhisar ahead in the 77th minute. And again 10 minutes later in the 87th minute, again Zeki Yavru, this time from a free kick, and another phenomenal strike puts the final scoreline on the scoreboard, 3-1. Great goals from Zeki Yavru, not something we'll see every day. And then also we're mentioning this is the first win in 10 games for Akhisar. So they had gone 9 matches without a win. Their last match that they won was 3-0 against Fenerbahce on December 9th. So first win of 2019 and first win in 10 matches. And this gives them a little bit of a lifeline. They're up to 21 points now, which gives them a slight chance. I'm going to throw to you first, Burak.
I just want to focus on the goalkeeping error, because I just thought that was absolutely horrendous. What has he done there? What's the Akhisar goalkeeper doing?
But we said exactly the same thing about Lukac last week in the game against Galatasaray.
Yeah, what was he thinking? He should stop using his feet. But it has to be said here, though, his teammate perhaps should not have given him that pass. I mean, maybe a testament to the teammate that he still has any faith in Lukac's footwork. But dear God, what was that? That was probably the worst piece of footwork I've seen since Fevzi kicked over the ball and the ball agonizingly slowly rolled over the goal line between Beşiktaş and Galatasaray. I think that match ended 1-1 then. In 1999 or 98 or something. But this was just absolutely abysmal. And then those two strikes, guys, those Zeki Yavru goals. Dear me, what was that?
He is obviously probably thinking, here I am, Trabzon. I think that's what. But there was there were great strikes, and even the other goal, who scored their other goal. Even Bilal, that was a great strike. All Akhisar's goals were really good. I'd implore the listeners just to Google and watch the highlights. So just 3 great strikes, and it was completely unexpected. Their first win in 5, I think first win in 6 actually. And potential back-to-back Turkish Cup.
Win in 10 matches.
Bloody hell! And 3-1 strikes did it.
Not counting the Turkish Cup, obviously. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal strikes. And you know what? Those are the types of goals you'd expect from Bilal Kisa, that free kick and that first strike from Zeki Yavru, but definitely not from Zeki.
He's one of his Hamsi Pilau, getting his strength up.
Anything to add, Özer?
No, not really. Just that it was 4 very memorable goals in one game. We're blessed with those.
Yeah, definitely. And a great result for Akhisar, which brings us to the standings. Akhisar are still bottom in the bottom 3. They're on 21 points. Erzurumspor have 1 point more. They're on 22 points. Then we have a 4-point difference with Göztepe, who are on 26 points. Then we have Bursaspor just 1 point above the mark. With 27 points, and then there's a little bit more of a gap still. 28 points for Fenerbahce, 28 points as well for Çaykur Rizespor. Of course, they played each other this weekend, and then there's another couple of teams with 30 points. Ankaragücü, Kasımpaşa both have 30 points. That's most of that we're mentioning. At the top, Başakşehir have now 54 points, and they are 8 points clear from second. Galatasaray have 46 points. Beşiktaş 41 points. Those are the European spots, 1, 2, and 3. And then the 4th spot that also gives right to the European qualifiers for the Europa League. It's currently taken by Trabzonspor, who are on 37 points, 2 points more than Konyaspor, and 3 points more than Malatyaspor. So those are the standings for this week. Let's quickly go over to the fixtures for next week, if you guys want to take a look. So match day 25, on Friday we have Sivasspor hosting Malatyaspor. On Saturday, we have Ankaragücü hosting Bursaspor, a very interesting match between 2 brethren clubs, so to speak. Trabzonspor host Akhisarspor in the midday match, and the late match will be Başakşehir versus Fenerbahce. That's, I think, for most people, the one match that they'll be looking out for. Then on Sunday, the early match is Alanyaspor against Erzurumspor. Then midday matches, we have 2 of those. We have Göztepe versus Kasımpaşa and Çaykur Rizespor versus Büyükşehir Belediye Erzurumspor. And then the evening match is Beşiktaş against Konyaspor. Then on Monday there's just one match. That one is Galatasaray hosting Antalyaspor. So Galatasaray will have to wait almost 48 hours until after the Başakşehir Fenerbahce result to play their match. So that's a lot of time to mentally prepare should Başakşehir drop points. Guys, which game stands out to you most? I'm going to throw to you first, Burak.
For me, if we don't pick Başakşehir Fenerbahçe, because that is my team, I believe the Ankaragücü Bursaspor match is very, very tight. Bursa on 27 points and Ankaragücü on 30. Real relegation dogfight scrap. Looking forward to seeing that. And also Göztepe Kasımpaşa, I think, should be quite interesting. Again, just because they're quite close in points.
Yep.
And with Göztepe during, same with Kasımpaşa, I'm going to say I think Fenerbahçe will get at least a point away at Başakşehir. So that's my prediction. I'm going bold. I'm going bold and beautiful with some baby. But yeah,
Uzi. Oh, sorry.
Again, aside from the highlight fixture of Başakşehir Fener, my pick of the bunch is Göztepe as well. I think at home and with slightly more confidence, having drawn this weekend, I think that'll be the game to watch. It'll be a great atmosphere in Izmir as well.
Yeah, when we talk about defining moments in the season, this could be a defining moment for them. If they cannot beat Kasımpaşa, I think then they're in deep, deep trouble.
Yes, exactly. And the point blank save that Better made earlier on, earlier on Friday, on Sunday rather, might prove to be really crucial because he kept them in the game, kept them with a 1 point.
And then, of course, the Ankaragücü Bursaspor match. It's interesting on multiple levels. Will Ankaragücü have a little bit of breathing space now? 4 points away from relegation at the moment. Will they do the favor to Bursaspor, their brethren club? I doubt they are in a position to do so. Bursaspor coming off their first win in 9, if I'm not mistaken, so they'll have some confidence heading into this match. And of course, there'll be tribute being paid to the 2 young Ankaragücü fans who lost their lives tragically on Friday. But those are 2 very interesting matches beside the obvious pick of Başakşehir Fenerbahçe. And Özer, your expectations for that mini derby?
I'm going to go for a draw.
Okay. You know what? I think so too. Because Fenerbahçe have... I don't think there's... I mean, defensively, they're clearly not very solid. I mean, conceding a lot of goals. But they are tenacious. And I don't think they're easy to beat at this point, despite the fact that they concede a lot of goals. So, if Fenerbahçe can get the first goal, I could even see them get a win. Başakşehir always seem to struggle against Fenerbahçe in particular. So, let's hope for the sake of the title race that we get an upset win from Fenerbahçe here. That will do it for episode 3 of Football a la Turca. Thank you everyone for listening once again. And please check the show notes for our Twitter handles. See you all next week.